Horcruxes. A Horcrux is not simply a magical container for a piece of someone's soul. It's the result of one of the most deliberately obscured rituals in all of wizarding history. And the reason it's obscured is genuinely disturbing. When a witch or wizard commits murder, the act of killing fractures their soul. Not metaphorically. The soul physically splits. An unnamed dark enchantment, performed immediately after the killing, tears that fractured shard loose and binds it to a chosen object. The body of the creator can then be destroyed entirely, and they still won't die, because death requires a complete soul to pass on, and theirs is now spread across multiple anchors. The incantation and ritual for creating a Horcrux exist. Rowling has confirmed this. She has also confirmed she will never reveal them, not in any book, interview, or supplementary material, specifically because she didn't want to write a functional dark arts manual. Hermione reads about the process and secrets of the darkest art and is visibly shaken. The films show none of this research. Slughorn describes it to a teenage Tom Riddle in hushed, horrified fragments, which is exactly the right tone for information that shouldn't exist in the first place. Occlumency and Legilimency. We know Occlumency and Legilimency are from the movies, but here's what the films quietly dropped. Snape's lessons in the books involve him diving, without warning, into Harry's most private memories, including his parents' deaths and his worst humiliations of the Dursleys. They're genuinely uncomfortable scenes. The films also never establish that Snape is himself a master occlumens, which is the entire foundation of how he spent decades deceiving Voldemort. When it's later revealed that Snape was never truly a Death Eater in Allegiance, that reveal only lands if you understand that Voldemort, the most skilled Legilimens alive, looked inside Snape's mind repeatedly and found nothing. That context is missing, so the reveal arrives without the weight it's supposed to carry. Lily's sacrifice and the Fidelius charm. Lily Potter's sacrifice was not a spell. There is no incantation. It is what Dumbledore repeatedly calls ancient magic, one of the oldest and deepest laws in wizarding existence. When Voldemort arrived at Godric's Hollow, he gave Lily a choice. She refused to step aside. That voluntary self-sacrifice, made when she genuinely could have chosen differently, triggered a counter-enchantment on whoever she died to protect. This is not something she performed. It is a natural magical law, and crucially, one that Voldemort, in his complete obsession with power and fear of death, had never studied and didn't believe was relevant. The Fidelius charm is the other mechanism at work, and it's worth understanding how it actually functions, because the films flatten it considerably. The charm hides a secret inside a living person, the Secret Keeper. Once the charm is cast, the secret becomes literally undetectable to anyone who has not been told directly by the Keeper. You could physically walk through the Potter's front door, stand in their living room, and not perceive that anyone lived there. The secret isn't the address. It's the fact that someone is hiding there. The Keeper can choose to share the secret. They cannot be forced to share it by torture or legilimency. The magic protects the knowledge itself. James and Lily planned for Sirius Black to be their keeper. At the last moment, Sirius suggested switching to Peter Pettigrew, reasoning that Pettigrew was a less obvious target and that Voldemort would prioritize hunting Sirius. Pettigrew was already a Death Eater informant. The moment he became Secret Keeper, the secret was already lost. The films treat this as a betrayal story. The books make clear it was a catastrophic miscalculation by Sirius, one he made with good intentions and one that destroyed his life, and that he spent 12 years in Azkaban carrying the knowledge that he handed his best friend's location to the man who murdered them. The extension of Lily's protection to Privet Drive is a deliberate piece of magical architecture. By placing Harry with Petunia, Lily's blood relative, and having Petunia offer Harry a home, Dumbledore anchored the sacrificial charm to that bloodline. Each year Harry returned and called it home, the protection renewed. It expired on Harry's 17th birthday, when he became a legal adult. Dumbledore had written to Petunia years before Harry arrived on her doorstep, informing her of what she was accepting and what it meant. The films mention the protection expiring and passing, but the mechanism and the letter are never explained. Ancient magic. Ancient magic, as a category, is Dumbledore's term for the oldest layer of wizarding magic. Pre-verbal, pre-wand, operating on entirely different axioms than anything taught at Hogwarts. Standard magic in the Harry Potter universe is learnable, teachable, wand-channeled, and incantation-based. Ancient magic predates all of it. It responds to love, sacrifice, choice, and moral weight rather than technical skill. It has no rulebook, no class, no incantation. There is nothing to practice. This is precisely why Voldemort couldn't account for it. Animagi. Becoming an animagus is one of the most technically demanding feats in magic. The process requires the practitioner to hold a mandrake leaf under their tongue for an entire month, including through sleep, which is its own logistical challenge. Brew a complex potion over many months under specific conditions, and perform a final incantation during a lightning storm. If any stage is mishandled, the consequences are permanent and unpredictable. McGonagall spent years achieving her transformation. James, Sirius, and Pettigrew completed it in their 5th year at Hogwarts, as teenagers, without supervision, purely to keep Remus Lupin company during his monthly transformations, because they decided that their werewolf friend shouldn't have to be alone in the dark. The films deliver this in approximately 90 seconds of Sirius Black dialogue. The Ministry maintains a register of known Animagi, and registration is legally required. Unregistered Animagus status is a criminal offense. The register exists precisely to prevent abuse of the ability, which is exactly what Pettigrew did for 12 years, hiding as a rat in the Weasley household and avoiding detection entirely. Rita Skeeter's unregistered status as a beetle animagus is a serious criminal matter in the books, which Hermione leverages to control her completely. The films include none of this, so Hermione's power over Skeeter and Goblet of Fire looks like a minor character beat rather than genuine blackmail. The animagus form is not selected. It manifests from the practitioner's personality and inner nature, the same forces that determine a Patronus, and this parallelism is not a coincidence. McGonagall is a cat. James was a stag, identical to his Patronus, which the books treat as meaningful. Sirius was a large black dog. Peter was a rat. Whether the form reflects the person they were or the person they became is left open, but the correspondence is consistent enough that it functions as character shorthand if you're paying attention. Obscurials. An Obscurus forms when a young witch or wizard is forced to suppress their magic, through abuse, trauma, or intense fear of their own abilities. The magical energy has nowhere to express itself, so it turns inward and becomes a parasitic, destructive force. A swirling mass of dark energy that erupts when the host is emotionally overwhelmed. The host, an Obscurial, cannot control it. Most Obscurials die before the age of 10 because the human body simply cannot contain the self-destructive energy long-term. Credence Barebone surviving into his early 20s in Fantastic Beasts is treated as medically impossible by wizarding standards, which is why Grindelwald is so interested in him. Ariana Dumbledore, Albus's younger sister, was attacked by Muggle boys who witnessed her magic at age 6. The trauma caused her to suppress her abilities entirely. She became dangerous, unstable, and unable to control her power. She killed her own mother in an accidental magical outburst. The term Obscurial didn't exist in the original series, but the symptoms she displays match the condition exactly. She is never formally identified as one in the main books, but the implication was made explicit when the Fantastic Beasts films were produced. Her death during a 3-way duel between Albus, Aberforth, and Grindelwald is one of the defining events of Dumbledore's life. The guilt is what Voldemort's locket forces him to relive in Deathly Hallows, and it's also the reason Dumbledore can never fully trust himself with power. The Obscurus concept is also a structural critique of the wizarding world. Obscurials don't appear by accident. They are the direct consequence of magical children being punished, isolated, or hidden by people who fear their abilities. The Ministry has historically recorded them as accidental magic cases and watched them die. Grindelwald views them as weapons. Neither response treats the children involved as people. The films gesture at this, but don't follow through. Obliviation. Obliviate targets specific memories. A skilled obliviator can remove knowledge of a single event while leaving surrounding memories intact. The Ministry has an entire department, Obliviator Headquarters, whose only function is modifying Muggle memories after accidental magical exposure. When performed carelessly or with a damaged wand, the damage is far broader. Gilderoy Lockhart's accidental self-obliviation left him with no functional long-term memory at all. Bertha Jorkins, a Ministry employee who'd been obliviated multiple times over the years, had a mind so fragile by the time Voldemort got hold of her that breaking through the last charm destroyed it completely. Hermione's modification of her parents' memories is treated in the books as one of the most difficult and morally significant things she does in the entire series. She spent weeks preparing it. She didn't simply remove knowledge of her own identity. She altered years of memories, arranged for her parents to emigrate to Australia under false names, and understood that she was performing an act she might never be able to reverse. The films showed it in a 90-second opening montage. The books returned to her guilt about it multiple times, because the act of removing yourself from someone's memory, however lovingly intended, is the most invasive violation of a person's mind that magic permits. The systematic obliviation of Muggles is presented in the books as a morally uncomfortable necessity. Kingsley Shacklebolt is assigned to obliviate the Muggle Prime Minister if necessary. The practice is legal, ministry-sanctioned, and entirely routine. The books treat this as a genuine ethical question. Thousands of people have their memories altered without consent, regularly, as a matter of policy. The films treat it as a convenient plot mechanism, which is a reasonable adaptation choice, and also entirely strips out everything interesting about it. Apparition. Apparition operates on 3 principles: destination, determination, and deliberation. These aren't just mnemonic. They correspond directly to the 3 most common failure modes. An imprecise destination causes splinching. Insufficient determination causes a failed apparition where nothing happens at all. Rushed or panicked deliberation causes partial splinching or arrival at the wrong location. Splinching, for clarity, is when part of the body is left behind at the point of departure. The films show Ron losing a chunk of shoulder in Deathly Hallows. The books are considerably more graphic. Students in apparition lessons regularly lose eyebrows, fingernails, and skin. It is not automatically fatal, but requires immediate magical treatment. Dittany handles surface splinching. More significant cases require professional intervention. Apparition cannot penetrate magical barriers. Hogwarts maintains anti-apparition enchantments across its grounds, which is why 6th-year students must travel to Hogsmeade for lessons. The magic literally cannot operate within the school's boundaries. The lessons themselves are run by a ministry instructor, not a Hogwarts teacher, and are treated structurally as an external examination. You must pass a ministry test to obtain your license. You cannot legally apparate under 17, and the whole process is closer in framing to a driving test than a classroom subject. The books make this comparison almost explicitly. The films do not include the lessons at all, which means apparition is introduced as a plot convenience rather than a learnable skill with rules, limitations, and a ministry bureaucracy attached to it, which is arguably the most Harry Potter thing possible, and they just left it out. If you want to stay in the world of Harry Potter lore, we've got a video that asks one of the most interesting what-ifs in the entire series. What if someone other than the Dursleys had raised Harry? Different guardian, different Harry, completely different story. That one's up next.